Hey there. Hey, Jim, are you still around? I want to check and make sure the sound is okay and everything. How you doing, Brian? Neighbor? How's it going, Alexander? Is the sound okay? Hey, Rancher. How you doing, Clyde? I guess. Okay, good. Oh, great. Well, um, what I wanted to talk about today is, hey, Goldfinger. Wristwatch check. I got on my FP Journe chronomet surveying. I had this on today because I just got it back from service, and it's always fun to wear. Hey, John. Um. Anyway, I what came up? I mentioned in the write up. I didn't want to sound like a curmudgeon, but I suppose I do in this topic. Uh, I've been getting these. I somehow find myself wrapped up in these really stupid discussions over things that really aren't important with people who are they're really not very well informed about horology, but they think they are because they think they know the price of everything. The old saying, they know the price of everything, the value of nothing. And I suppose that's, that's old hat. But other kinds of things beside, we got to talk about the resale value, how much luminescence there is in the dial, water resistance, and even sometimes finishing. Let me tell you what sort of have in mind is that most of these things are visual. You can look at your watch and say, "Well, this thing doesn't have any lume." I, most of your top watches don't. The let's I don't know what the resist probably 30 meters. I wouldn't take it under 1 meter, so, I mean, I wouldn't put it in water at all, so I could care less about if I were a diver and really doing some stuff, or, in swimming or something, yeah, that's important. But these things they're sorta talked to death, and people, they're really serious, "Well, how much underwater can you take?" In my case, nothing. I don't care what it says. I don't want my watches underwater. And then well, if it's got a screw down crown, it's okay to do. So what I wanted to talk about today is, how what what are really good, worthwhile, essential things that we can talk about. And then this afternoon at 4 o'clock, we'll talk about it. But this morning, I wanted to get some ideas from you guys. What should we be really, like getting to know your watch better? What can you what should we be looking at? Um anyway, hey Vladimir, how you doing? Football fan, how are you? James Joas. I don't know how to say that. Joas Christian, is it Hoas? Not sure. Anyway, hey Dom. Ayer, hello from the land from down under. Let me guess. Antarctica, Australia. Uh, that's the hobby. What's the hobby? Oh, where are you? Hi, Gilberto. Hey, Tuna. Kotov. Kotov Media. My mill gas can probe aliens. Now that's important. That's what it's good for too. I happen to like mill gas. Hey, Richard. Uh, from the Spanish Inferno. Man, I tell you, a lot of places are really hot. For New England, we've been it's been 3 things. Hot, not hot like it's been in the Southwest or, nothing like that or just in the South, but, it has been hot for us. we've had rain. My God, we've had tons and tons of rain, flooding. Poor old Vermont got flooded, and we're seeing things in the Connecticut River floating down from Vermont. And so we've had heat, rain. What else have we had? That's enough. we're, we're, we're sort of wet and hot. Didn't come out right. Okay. Hey, Raj, Oregon, support the Oregon Ducks. I've got a lot of relatives up in Oregon that are Duck fans. One of my son lives in Oregon. I'm sure he's a Duck fan. Hey, John. I hear Australia. Of course, Australia. What part of Australia? You know, I tell you, there's a shop in Brisbane, Australia. It's one of the really good shops anywhere with a lot of different types of watches. Hey, William, from the Villages, Florida. Ah, William, how are things down in Florida? What they got? Vladimir, a sample. A friend of mine's collecting only Rolex. Yeah, that's not. I mean, if if somebody wants to collect only Rolexes, fine, or any other kind of brand. The problem comes is that they think they know about every other brand, and usually they don't. Just like if somebody collects nothing but Patek Philippe, they think they know about all brands because of such a good watch. Well, they don't often. And so anyway, that's one of the things I think. I think that's one thing to avoid is being too narrow on things. I have sort of a rule that I sometimes follow that I don't want to get any more than two of any one brand, not because it has nothing to do with, oh, I think this is the best brand and that's what I'm going to do, but rather sort of help keep me sort of around. Goldfinger, the Caribbean. Everybody's talking about where they're from. How are things in the Caribbean? Oh, Melbourne. Okay. Thanks. Humidity. Yeah. Yeah, we got the humidity. Okay. We have humidity, but we don't have humility. We could use less of one and more of the other. Hey, Tim. Websy, how you doing? Washington. How things in Washington, Websy? Complications because life is not complicated enough. That's yeah, that's one thing. That's a good point. Uh, I know everything about brands. Yeah, I I gotta tell you, that's one thing. I think that's one thing that's a lot of fun is learning something about a brand you don't know anything about. Every now and then, somebody will say, "Well, why don't you do something about this brand of watch?" And I don't never heard of the brand before, so I go out and find out about it and say, "Hey, that's really, they got some interesting stuff there." Um, there was one brand, it starts with an E, ETN, I think. Man, I tell you, I didn't know anything about that. I found out about it. That's one of the few brands that have the dual barrels and parallel, which I happen to like a lot. Happens to be in my CS, but uh, those are some of the things. Hey, Koji, how you doing? I know plenty of pianists who are Steinway centric and nothing else. Why those narrow-minded piano players? I'm going to play a Steinway or nothing. Hey, Vladimir, one can go down the rabbit hole and get into complications from single to the most complicated. And guess what? JLC may be the one brand you can stay within fulfilling all the requirements. Just one brand, huh? Hey, James, less hype and more about horology. I agree with that, James. Fun if you can handle it. Tim. I can't. Where's Tim? What did Tim have to say? Drinking early. Tricky, Tim, I think early I think you you're very much of a world time guy, Tim. You'll find the right time somewhere in the world. Ah, hey, watches collector. What do you think about the Chopek and Moser brands? Which one is better to take into the collection? I like them both, really. I like Moser better because I know it better, which doesn't, which means what I know about Chopek is nothing but good things. And the same thing with H. Moser, but I know a little more about H. Moser. In fact, on Monday, I have a thing on H. Moser on the Monday's video. Um, the the thing I like about Mosers probably has more to do with precise engineering than anything else. Another thing that Moser did that I really, really like is that they had entry level watches. Before at one time, their watches started around 20,000 and went up from there. This was all pre pandemic. And right, they started putting in a new series. They kept the quality, uh, and they added a new movement, an automatic movement, which is before they didn't seem to have automatics. Neither one of the ones I have are automatics. And crazy about both of them. But then they started introducing some other ones at more approachable prices. And I think these watches, the great thing about these watches is that they serve as a gateway to better horology. Let me say something about this too. I hate using the term high horology because it was really developed, I think, more of as a marketing term, and they what they considered high horology, depending on the brand, with oh well, I guess that counts, and I guess that counts. I think so. I That's why I have a little sort of like stumble around when people say, "Well, is it high horology or not?" I think what's important is that do you have a really good movement in there or not, or do you have something that's not so good? And here's one of the ironies is that the more I'm finding more and more things about movements like certain ETA movements that I really like. I've always liked the 6498-1 because it's 18,000 uh, semi oscillations per hour. So that's one. I don't know. I've always been unreasonably upset with the 7,001, but it's not a bad movement. It's just small. I had a watch that it was about a 40 millimeter watch, and then inside they had this little 7,001 and tried to tell me it was in house, and it wasn't. It was um, something else. Okay, let's see. What else you guys got going? Hey there, Eric. Eric, you must be somewhere where it's late. Here it's early morning. Fascinated by the VC's historique collection. Um, like the 1921 and the 1955 comb, the horns of the cow or something like that. Yeah, those are Vacheron Constantin is one of those other brands that I like because they do some different things and they're not using silicon. I hope, knock on wood. Like anything else in life, the more you learn about the subject, the more you understand that there's more to learn about. You're right, John. I tell you, the more I learn, the dumber I feel. We've been working. I'll tell you one thing: if you want to really feel dumb, get involved in a LaRique project. My God, we've been, they've been there's the communication that we get between all of these different parts of people making this and people making that and people making this and how they all have to come together in this perfect whole. A whole, WHOLE. There's the whole goes where all your money goes. Um, one of the things I think I'm going to do, I'm gonna get I'm gonna try to finish my project I've been working on for a few years. I got stuck at one place, and so I'm gonna go back and get I'm gonna go to AliExpress and get an inexpensive movement and case and dial and hands, everything that goes together, and put it together so everything is working great. Speaking of which, by the way, to me, that's a fun topic to talk about is making your own watches. And by making your own watches, I'm talking about starting with a pre-made movement case and so forth. Once you go beyond that, uh, it gets like right over our heads. But even if we put a watch together, it gives us some appreciation of certain things that go into it. And I've made a lot and broken a lot of them, so I know about those things. Has horology ever existed without marketing and hype? Yeah, I think, people like, there was this discussion that, um, Bruce and Adam and I had a few years back at one of the shows with, Stephen Forsay, and, we talked about we talked about different aspects of constant force. And I mean, like this was like it was in the middle of a watch show, the watch time show. The three of us were hanging out together, and we happened to talk to this, and we were sort of off to the side. And I think he came over and joined us, and so it was a kind of talk like you know guys talking about horology, and here they make what 2 or 3 watches a year and sell them for $1 million a piece, something like that. But I think it's important, and I think Rancher, what you're saying is also important because sometimes one gets confused with the other. It's sort of as a marketing thing. They'll talk about like our watch has a mainspring. What do you think of that? Okay. So that that kind of thing, as opposed to I've never. I mean, if some hype was, you know, get an Acme watch with it's got a Remontois Égalité, most people wouldn't know what that was, which is unfortunate. Koji, I get 1815 personally, having recently seen it in the 6119 in person, but can't go wrong with it with either. The 1815 I really like. I That's a neat watch. If you're talking about the Longa Un Sunda 1815, that is a nice one. Hey, Raj, any cheap quartz is high horology, but not high technology and art. I don't know. Is it is some of these guys thinking? I think 'cause for some of them, high horology is spending a little time with the bong and the watch. Okay. Oh, okay, Eric. Oh, it's Australia. Okay, so it is late at night there, early in the morning here. Would you choose VC over Paddock? Tuna, I'll tell you what, that is sort of like Patek Philippe, once they put um, eh, silicone hairsprings in them, I don't care about them anymore. It's sort of like those are kind of watches I don't care about. And so obviously, I not obviously, but because of that, but I can't look at them with saying, "Oh boy, that's something I'd like." I don't care how good they are. Whereas with Vacheron Constantin, there are a lot of different things they have, most of which that I really like, I can't afford. I have one, and there's another one I'm thinking of getting, and I've been thinking about it for 4 or 5 years. Maybe I'll get around to it. But I like uh yeah, I had a Patek Philippe. I had a Calatrava, love that Calatrava. but it was one of the older ones. Anything before 2009, I liked, and I like Calatravas. They're a nice, simple, uh, just good, really good horology. What do you think about Fed's bespoke watch made by Tourby? I don't think it's bad for the money. It could be. I don't know anything about it. Federico's got a watch made by Tourby. Could be nice. Okay, Rod, you don't like the Tourby. I don't know anything about it. You like the dial on it, Brian. Cool. Oh, good. Constant force equal attraction to find watches. Yeah, John, I think that's one way of putting it, is that you're eh, what kind something with constant force. If someone says, "Okay, this is what we did with constant force," I can point out to this. What did they do? Well, they put in dual barrels in parallel. That's something for constant force. Or they have a Remontois Egalite and a Gronfeld, or they have one thing or the other, or they have a one that we've got that in our Lyrique Etude 1, we have a Strawman hairspring. So, and plus we also have an Agonese gear, and that's the ones with a little spring in it so that nothing slips and you get a really smooth movement. So we can talk about that and talk about it in a way so, like somebody has, well, I have this, and the question would be, well, so what? Well, those are the things I think that would be important to talk about. Not so much my watch is better than your watch. um, I don't think there's a brand out there that doesn't have a watch in it that I really like. I like the 38, I think it's the 318 Omega Moon watch. I really like that watch. They haven't Swatch hasn't started stuffing silicone hairsprings in them yet. I hope they never do. I mean, they may be hand wound. I'm not sure, but that's a nice watch. I really like. Patek Philippe has a lot of watch pre 2009 that I like. Rolex has watches I like, and I like Rolex because they have the blue parachrome hairspring in them, and they're well made. I mean, so there are a lot of different things, but I love the print, but they got rid of it. They also got rid of the, Yachtmaster 2. They never I mean, Rolex owners never a lot of them never seem to like that watch. That watch has got one of the most interesting complications for a countdown, that I know of, and I like, well, I don't like the looks of it or something. I like it fine. I'll tell you a watch that I really like, and when it came out, uh, Patek Philippe owners didn't like it at all. They just doesn't belong here, and that was their pilot watch. The pilot watch that had, the dual time zone, really, and it was a big watch. Apparently, I guess they must have changed their mind at some point because 'cause they're still making it, and I think that watch I like a lot, um, especially the ones made before 2009. Websy, it would be nice if you could write a book about horology. Let me tell you something, Websy. I've written and published 63 books. I spent 45 years doing that, and I just don't wanna write another book ever. I mean, I'm booked out. So, I mean, I don't know. It just I tell you who has written a good book, and it's still a good book, is, Ryan Schmidt. His his wristwatch handbook is still really great, and I think he's coming out with a new one. And, so if you're looking for a good book on that, on wristwatches for the collector, I think that's a really good one, but man, I tell you get writing books is hard. I it's like it's not these creative things with a glass of bourbon next to you, coming out with creative things. It's like digging a ditch. You sit down and you write and write and write and write, and you look up all kinds of stuff, and then you write and write and write and write. Anyway, Reb, see, you write it, and I'll read it. Hey, Joel, I think the golden rule of buy what you like should be paramount, but perhaps that sidesteps the question. Yeah, it does. It's important, Joel. I agree with you, Joel, 100%. You shouldn't buy something because some herd tells you that's the one to buy, or you shouldn't buy it. And somebody like me says, "Oh, this one's really got great horology and blah 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 blah," and you get it, you just don't like it. So that's true, but you're right. It does sidestep certain things in horology. One of the things I do believe is that if you can, the more you learn about a watch, the more ways you can enjoy it and find watches that are really enjoyable. Oh yeah, yeah. The Rancher, the Urban Jurgensen. Man, I tell you, I love those watches. I tell you, I still think one of the watches that I got not too long ago was that the Fabergé um, Alexi. That Fabergé Alexi is a really nice watch with a Frederic Piguet 1150 movement in it, tuned to 4 hertz. I'd rather have the ones to 3 hertz, but that's neither here nor there. It's got hand hand tuned guilloche. It's got a white gold case. Great watch, and I got it for a song. And there were a bunch of them around, and most of them are gone now. And then I went back, so I took a look at Ashford, I think, they had one for sale for $1,000 over MSRP. It's something like 18,000 they were asking for it, and they used to be trying to unload them for anything they could get them. And then I guess some collectors began to realize, hey, that is a good deal. And the thing that has surprised me about it, it is so much fun to wear, and I don't know why. That goes back to the thing I think, Joel, about do you like it? And I do, and I'm not sure why I like it. I like this watch, and I know why I like it, but I don't know why I like the Fabergé. It's one of those things. Bottom line, you should care about what you care about. Okay. Is that is that a quote from Polonius? Okay, not what everybody else cares about. That I agree with. Hey, Emmett. Uh, Richard, my eyes not up to fiddling with a watch, but a young French lady has put a clock kit together, Maison Alice, parts made in Jura region, and I'm very tempted. Okay, I mean, Richard, are you talking about making your own clock? That might be a very cool project. I've got this wooden sort of gizmo with gears and stuff, and I haven't gotten around to put it together yet. One of those projects. Tuna Watchfinder did a good piece on Larique. Boy, did they ever! The thing that I liked about it, they understood what we were doing. Uh, they even had the right term. They got a bunch of cheapskates who like really good watches, and we figured out a way that we could sort of avoid all of the other charges that go into a watch other than the watch itself. Is there ever time to stop collecting? Does ever have a pencils down moment? I don't know. I'm sure it does. Um, is somebody takes up a different hobby or something. When I used to fly, that's all I cared about was flying, and we did all kinds of I even wrote books on flying. I was really into flying. And, then a few things happened, and, it wasn't I mean, I just stopped doing it. There were certain things it was there was always an element of danger in flying, that certain insurance policies sort of told you that, and they work on actuarial tables, which means, man, if I keep up my flying, I may have a short time. But, like this, like a watch collection is very expensive. My partner and I, he and I would, we'd think nothing of buying some way overpriced um, avionics. The guy who did our avionics, his name was Jesse James, well named. Richard, let's see what else we got here. Eric, I recently found a watchmaker here in Australia, Nicholas Hacko, in Sydney, makes a house a master watchmaker, makes in-house master watchmaker, finding more in-house um, watchmaker on my journey into horology. Those are very, very valuable. When I first started, I had a guy who was really good at servicing, and I knew another guy up just north of where we are who was also a top-notch watchmaker. Well, one of them moved, and the other one retired. So now I'm sort of like also too, my barber, I'm starting to look like Haystack Magoon. My barber, had a baby, and so she's not no longer available. I gotta find a new barber. 12 hours to assemble and around 5,000 euros. Wow. Article on Europa Star. Thank you, Richard. Okay, Rancher, it's frying pan time. All right, guys. Now, before we go, what do you want to talk about this afternoon? Because one of the things I thought we'd do this morning is what is worth collecting. Um, how about this? Why don't we talk about this? Why don't we talk about different elements just for constant force? Okay. So when we talk about that, if you can come back this afternoon at 4 o'clock New York time, um, and we can talk about different types of constant force in a mechanical watch. Okay, does that sound like a topic we could have some fun with? Ki- okay, Rancher, we'll, we'll we'll stop on that one. Okay, guys. Thank you all for those of you who got up early in Australia for who stayed up late. Uh, if you're around this afternoon for us, probably midnight everywhere else. We'll see you then. Take care.